God, we thank you for each person that has gathered on this night as an intentional community. We ask that you give us clarity in our thoughts, wisdom in our conversations. Let us remember the merits we have accomplished and be intentional about scrutinizing the potential pitfalls. But let us remember the words of Micah 6 and 8. As you remind us that you have already told us what's good, that we should love mercy, take care of our neighbor, that we should seek justice, stand in the gap for those who are oppressed and marginalized, and that we should walk with humility, not taking ourselves so seriously, but taking you seriously, God. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Troy. Pastor Troy has been an incredible, not just time advocate, as well as an awesome pastor. Thank you, Pastor Troy. I want to set some ground rules tonight, which I always do for every major Not This Time event. Not This Time is a safe space. We allow our guests, who are professionals that can take the tough questions. Never one time have I allowed anyone to disrespect any one of our guests. Take that into consideration. If that happens, we will escort you out of here. So we will control this meeting like we always have. Be prepared to give people tough questions to make sure everybody is respected in here. I appreciate that. My name is Andre Taylor. I am the founder of Not This Time. I'm feeling incredibly passionate tonight, just looking at all these banners that are up, the families that we've represented for 3 years, that we've been an organization that we've supported. Can I just have the family members in the room just stand up, please, and just honor you? Give them a hand clap. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you guys have done with Not This Time, and first creating 940, and then us sharing it with everyone around the state. Just to show you the power of grassroots movement, where something can start in a real small area. There's a saying that says, never despise the day of small things. I remember when we started Not This Time, Minty, my wife and I, Enrique, like 2 people were here. You remember that, Minty? And we had vision of what we wanted to do, and we started to engage. Let me say this: as you're building grassroots organizations, one of the most important things I want you to understand is that you can never go into building something feeling like you have to agree with somebody 100% of the time. Understand you're trying to find an agreement where you can agree with somebody. I don't agree and didn't agree with my father 100% of the time. I don't agree with my wife 100% of the time. Friends, uncles, sisters, and brothers. So how is it that you feel that you're going to agree with somebody 100% of the time in order for you to be able to build with it and find some commonality? We did that with the Escalade Washington. So I just don't want that, if you're building grassroots organizing, to be something that is a deterrent to you, that you feel that you have to agree with somebody 100% of the time. Just understand that. Each and every person that are here sacrificed to be here. I built some type of relationship. I've seen them working, not in their own right, but I've seen them personally working for community. And that's why I've asked them to be here today. This is not something abnormal for them. During this 3 years that we've worked on 940 and the inquest process and police and community relations, I've seen each and every person on this panel work for community. And I'm honored to have each and every one of them here. So just be encouraged, because this year that you see shows you that community and leaders in the city, state, and county can all come together and build. And that's what we're doing here in Washington State. Remember, we are the first state that has brought forth police accountability. And we did that by bringing all people together, as difficult as it was. Government, community, law enforcement, come together in agreement for change. We were able to do that because of the might of Washingtonians, because you saw some things that needed to be fixed, and you decided to stand all over this state. 60% of the voters voted for 940, 71% in King County. It is you, the voters of Washington State, who are the real champions of change. You are the ones that have set the tone for the rest of this country. It is an honor to be here with you doing this work. I just want to let you know that. Today is a transparent conversation. The mayor was supposed to be here. As a matter of fact, she was the first one that agreed to come. And she told me that I could tell you what other people don't know, that she had a surgery out of the blue. She had to have surgery. Nobody knows that, but she said I could share that with you tonight. And I could say that I believe that if she could be here, she would. I told her to get well, and we'll see her next time. But I'm letting you know that's what happened. So we're moving forward. And I just want to give a shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom. Would you stand up? Hi, Mom. She came from Dallas. She's been here and gives me a little time. I always say, Mom, when you come back home, you go see everybody. Can you give me a little time? She's popular. And I just want to say one more thing before we get started beyond this time. Is John Weber here? Could you stand, John, please?
I love John.
John didn't know I was going to do this, but we have young activists, older activists, and John has been an incredible non-first-time activist in doing the work. And I just wanted to acknowledge him, and just say thank you. There's a lot of activists that have been doing the work, but for the man to be where he is in age and is committed to doing this work, I appreciate what he's done for family members. Whenever family members have had a need, he has stepped up every single time, because when you're helping families, it's not just the instantaneous trauma. It goes on and on, and things happen that the average public may not know. But I just want to thank you, John, for how you've been such a support to not this time into communities that have been impacted. We love you. Thank you. So, my last thing I want to say is that over these last few years, remember when I started, people were saying that it was impossible to bring change. If I would have listened to that, I would have stopped a long time ago. I believed in the people. I still believe in you. And it was important for me to bring these powerful officials before you so that the conversations that we have had together, that we could have in front of you, transparent, because we're doing something different for the city and for the state. And we'd like to just kick it off here. And again, I'm honored to have each and one of these panelists here. And we're going to start down from Kim down there.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? All right, great. Hi, my name is Kim Moza, and I am an attorney with Disability Rights Washington. That's an organization that works on behalf of people with all disabilities across the whole state. We're actually a federally mandated protection and advocacy organization. So the work that I do is predominantly around decriminalizing mental health and behavioral health issues. I have been lucky enough to be working with Andre since the task force, the legislative task force, I think was when we first met a few years ago now, and have stuck with this work through the passage of Initiative 940 while I was part of Disability Rights Washington, was part of the leadership team for De-escalate Washington. And we got the law passed, which is, I'm still amazed that we did that, probably thanks to many of you here in the room. And I'm now learning that really a lot of the real work begins after you get the law passed. So we're still continuing to be involved in a lot of the implementation, right? So the law says we're going to improve our training. What does that mean? And that's a lot of what I think our constituents at Disability Rights Washington are certainly interested in. So I'm excited to be here tonight, and I'm happy to answer anyone's questions. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hi. Hi there. My name is Mr. Judge. I'm the Inspector General for Public Safety for the City of Seattle. It's a newly created office, and I've been here in Seattle on the job since May of 2018. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. So what I do, and I know it feels like there are a lot of parts of the accountability system in Seattle right now. And so my part of it is providing systemic oversight of the Seattle Police Department and the Office of Police Accountability. And so I think we're going to get a chance to talk a little bit more in depth about that later. So if you're wondering what the heck that means, we'll get a chance to explain it a little bit more in depth. But I come here from Tucson, Arizona, and I was a police lawyer there for the Tucson Police Department. But I wasn't one of those lawyers that was involved in defending the police department. What I was an in-house lawyer trying to give them the tools and the training and everything to do things the right way. So I was, on the an outsider on the inside, trying to help them, do it the right way, and that's really what I'm trying to do here in Seattle too. And so I bring about 23 years of experience doing that kind of work, and I've had the opportunity to work with Andre on a committee, trying to come up with some ideas for implementation for 940 and for investigation of police officer involved shootings. And it's been an honor to work with you. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pete Holmes. I'm your city attorney. I am now in my third term and my 10th year in this job. But the reason I got involved and ran for this office was from my work on the city's very, very first civilian oversight board for the Seattle Police Department. And that work continues. I can tell you, compared to what things were like back in 2002, we have come a long way, and yet we have a long way to go. In the role I have now, I advise the city and SPD on compliance, for instance, with the consent decree that we're now reforming the police department under. I appear in front of Judge Robart to speak for the city and to answer his pointed questions frequently about the city's progress. I will have a role in implementing 940, and I look forward to working with Sue Rara and the state commission that's charged with developing the regs for it. And we're also, I can tell you, looking forward to a much expanded role for the city in the new inquest procedures that I believe Executive Constantine will be discussing some more tonight, where the city, the police agency itself, has an expanded role about talking about what happened if shootings have gone wrong. So I look forward to answering questions that you have. I have a lot of background in this. I'm just going to close for right now by just saying, back in March of 2011, I had a very sad task to write to the lawyer for the estate of John T. Williams. And in that letter, now, next month it will be 8 years ago, I said, it's time for our legislature to address the malice requirement in the deadly force statute. It's an impossible statute showing for prosecutors to meet when it comes to an officer that we think has used force for malevolent reasons. In any event, I want to leave it at that, and thank you all for being here.
It's true that you endorsed both 873 and 940 were extremely overrated. I heard them.
Oh, no.
I absolutely did. 940 as well as the predecessor.
That's right. Thank you.
In fact, I signed the first one, right?
That's right. Well, he's been here from day one, you guys support him.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sue Rar. Some of you might remember me. I used to be the sheriff in King County. Was with the sheriff's office for 33 years, and in 2012 joined the Criminal Justice Training Commission. I've been there for 7 years. It's kind of flown by. And I looked at that previous 33 years in law enforcement as my training for what I'm doing now. When I got to the academy, I was a little bit surprised by the training that was going on. Most of the training was very good, but what I was not excited about was the culture that permeated, where the focus was the focus was, I think, stronger on skills than everything else. And so I started promoting the concept of looking at police officers as guardians in their community. And they still have to be warriors sometimes, because there are times when they have to use warrior skills. But we've really, I have to say, over the past 7 years, I've got an incredible training team there, and they have done a magnificent job of helping us inculcate the culture with a more service-oriented focus on training police officers. We do a presentation to all of our new recruits, and we tell them, you don't have to choose between being a warrior or a guardian. A guardian is both a warrior and a scholar. And you have to learn the Constitution, you have to learn psychology, you have to learn how to interact with human beings. If you are only trained as a warrior, you're really not equipped to serve the community the way you're intended to in a democracy. So it's been a really interesting journey. I was trying to remember earlier when Andre and I first met. It seems like forever ago.
Like when I first started.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, and I have to say, for my position on the commission, I'm the executive director, so I'm a staff member. I am not a commissioner. My job is to provide information to the commissioners who are going to make all the decisions. But I've learned so much along my journey working with Andre and community members, and I am really appreciative that so many of you turned out tonight. It's really rare, honestly, to see community members turn out in numbers like this on a cold night and take your personal time. So thank you for coming. Meetings like this and working with Andre and the other team that worked on I-940 has been very helpful. We've already begun implementing a lot of the things that we've learned from community members. So we'll talk about that more later, but I'm really glad to be here and anxious to hear your questions. Thanks.
If you guys need some chairs, there's chairs. Darius, could you get folks some chairs if they want to sit down? Or if you just want to stand up, that's fine.
Good evening, I'm Dow Constantine. I'm the executive of King County. I'm serving my third term. I lived in this town all my life, and I was one of the many who played a small role in helping with Initiative 940 and de-escalate. My role these days, when people turn to me, usually involves calling people on the phone and asking them to donate so we can get the message out. But I was happy to do it, and so proud that it passed by such a strong margin in Kane County, and now finally we're able to celebrate the adoption of the legislation and the signing of the bill in Olympia. I am going to talk later in the program about inquests that happen in cases with police-involved death in the community, and I will save my remarks about that till later, but I want to thank everyone in this room, including this gentleman, been so instrumental in helping us reform the inquest process. And also, I play a role in trying to bring together a lot of the players in the criminal system to focus on reform. Most of them do not work for me, a few do, but the rest of it is encouraging and negotiating with folks to get everyone on the same page toward the kind of reforms we want to see for our community, and there is going to be a lot of that work moving forward from this point. Thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening. I am Adrian Diaz. I am an assistant chief with this, obviously, the Seattle Police Department. Uniform kind of shows that out a little bit. I'm recently, relatively recently promoted in the sense that I've been doing it in this role at about 5 months. I oversee right now the crisis response team unit, which handles close to about 11,000 calls dealing with crisis, people in crisis, behavioral health issues. I also have the homeless outreach and navigation side of the Seattle Police Department, as well as the community outreach portion, which is we focus on our community outreach on demographic and identity-based communities. We also include our youth violence prevention work, working with actually several people in this room in those areas of youth violence prevention and community outreach. And so I'm actually looking forward to having a good discussion. I'll answer all the questions that I can answer and let you know if there's things that I just can't talk about, but I will do my best to give you as much information as possible. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Lynette Buffington. I'm the Executive Director of the Washington State Fraternal Order of Police. I want to thank you all for having us here tonight in our organization. I'm especially happy to come back to this neighborhood. I taught at Washington Middle School right across the street in the early 2000s. And I will say, I'm not making this up, it was absolutely the best year of teaching I ever had before I moved off to Baltimore and through the higher ed system. But it was really a wonderful school, and I miss this neighborhood quite a bit. It's changed a ton since I taught here, oh my gosh, but thank you for having me back in the community. So in Washington State, the FOP, as we're frequently called, represents nearly 3,000 police officers throughout the state, and we consider ourselves the most diverse and inclusive association for law enforcement because you can be a fully commissioned or a limited commission officer, you can be in any local, state, or federal agency, so ranging from your city cop to your bailiff to your fish and wildlife, any of those agencies can be members of our association. Nationally, we represent about 345,000 officers. So you will hear about FOPs in different states and communities across the nation. We were founded nationally through a grassroots movement as well. In 1915, two officers in Pittsburgh got together and didn't like their conditions, and they came together for the purpose of organizing their union. But over the years, we've evolved beyond just labor services. We are also a fraternal organization with social activities and community outreach. And they're very unique to the community in which our local lodges reside. So we have lodges out in the Grays Harbor, Shelton, Mason County area, and those activities that those officers do with their community are reflective of the needs in that area. We have quite a few officers in the Tri-Cities, and their community outreach, they're right now doing a food drive. So these groups come together collectively to do outreach in the community. My role, much like Mr. Diaz here, I come in relatively new to this role, about 5 months, so we can commiserate on our learning curves. My role at the organization is, obviously to act as the executive director, help direct some of our policy, run the operations, herd the cats, and all those kind of things that happen when you run an organization. But one of the biggest things they hired me for was to do events like this and to work with the community. I am not a police officer. I have a degree in criminal justice, but what I shared with you was that I also spent a good amount of my career in classrooms, working with people and working with the community. So that is one of the reasons they brought me on board, is to engage with the community and hear different perspectives and bring them back for our law enforcement officers to hear what the community feels and needs from the law enforcement community. I'm sure there'll be more questions later, but I look forward to speaking with you.
Hi, my name is Fe Lopez. I am the Executive Director of the Seattle Community Police Commission. I should note, we do not work for the Seattle Police Department nor a part of the police department. We are independent. They are a partner. We are part of the we're newly permanent as part of the community oversight of the Seattle Police Department. We were created under consent decree. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the evening. I staff a commission of volunteers, and we actually have 7 open positions. The mayor has 2 positions open and 5 from council. So if you're interested in participating in community oversight of police and police reform in Seattle, you can certainly get an application on our website or talk to the mayor or council. But our role is to engage with community, use the technical experience and advice and the people who are closely impacted, and bring that voice and that advocacy back into the reform process, which is inaccessible and complicated, and make it accessible. So I staff our volunteer commissioners, me and Minty Longer, who's in the back. We help staff our commissioners who do this work on a volunteer basis.
Enrique, he's standing there for Anthony Marburg, who's here up 15 minutes. Hi, my name is Enrique Gonzalez. I'm a community engagement specialist for the Office of Police Accountability. I used to be with the Seattle Community Police Commission, was there for a number of years. But I recently transitioned over. Andrew Meyerberg will be here shortly. But the Office of Police Accountability focuses on administrative investigations of police officers. And our job really is to take the complaints, any of the issues that arise around police officers and investigate if there are any violations of policy. And the important part there is that we do not do criminal investigations. There's a real big difference there. And so our job is to make sure that officers are following policies of the Seattle Police Department. And so we have a number of officers that investigate those things, but also there are a number of civilians who also work for the department or for the office. And I'm one of them, along with Geneva Taylor, who's back there, and Monique Guevara. And so we're here from the Office of Police Accountability. Andrew should be here shortly, and I know he's going to go in more detail about what we do. Thank you.
So let me just piggyback off of that. So there are 3 departments that oversee law enforcement, and later on we're going to get into the conversation about the CPC, the IG, and OPA. You need to understand how all 3 of these different departments that have oversight over law enforcement operate, what makes them different. So the community always needs clarity, because really nobody knows what the heck either one of them do. So tonight I need you to understand and stay tuned in specifically so that you understand where you can get help from if you need it, and they will explain their operations. So right now I'm going to allow Sue to take over. We can start getting into 9:40
I
and the
think that other
implementation process.
microphone is better.
Well, like Kim said, this is where the work really starts to begin. I spent the better part of today with several staff members putting our heads together because we have some very short timelines to meet. The process for that the I-940 calls for is a very complex process in some ways and simple in others. I decided to bring a handout for each of you because the more I tried to condense this down and put it in bite-sized pieces, the more convoluted it got. So I'm just going to trust that if you took the time to come to this meeting tonight, at some point I hope you'll take the time to read through this handout. There's 2 pages, this front page, back page, and then there's page 3, and then there's a schedule. So what I'd like to do, Andre, a couple of minutes here to go through this. Okay. So once the legislation was passed, it's like passing the baton on to the training commission to make the rules. And the purpose of making rules is to set the standards and requirements, both for the training of peace officers and then for establishing the criteria that will establish independent investigations. So, this one better? Okay. There are 14 Criminal Justice Training commissioners. The 14 of them are appointed by the governor. They serve a term of 4 years, and so we have people coming on and going off. There's 2 police chiefs, 2 sheriffs, 2 union representatives, a citizen at large, a local elected official, the chief of state patrol, the special agent in charge of the FBI, the state attorney general. I think I got all of them. You can just Google the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission. That commission was established in 1974 for the purposes of establishing standards. The 14 commissioners meet 4 times a year, and they conduct the business. All of their business is conducted in public. And the way they accomplish their work and establishing standards is to create rules. So the people on the I-940 committee were, I think, of course, very wise in using this, the commission to do this additional work because this is in our wheelhouse to create standards for training. So what will happen now with the I-940 legislation is this. There's 2 major bodies of work. One body of work focuses on the training. And the statute is very clear about what categories of training need to be covered. And including, there's a whole section on first aid. And then the other responsibility of the commission revolves around establishing the criteria for an independent investigation. We're going to have a different process to create that work. we're gonna start with creating the rules for training. Those rules have to be adopted by June 6th. Those of you that have been involved in the I-940 process probably got quite an education in legal processes and how long it takes. Typically, for the commission to adopt a rule will take up to a year. We're gonna try and condense this into about 2.5 months. So this is really on a fast track. The good news is, as I said before, over the last 2 years, we have already begun adding sections to our training. A lot of the things called for in the statute are already being taught to police officers. Where I-940, in my opinion, is gonna make the biggest difference is we are finally going to have a legal mandate and funding to train officers who are already in the field. So the brand new recruits that are hired, they all come to our training academy. We train for about 300 different departments. The only police officers in this state that we don't train are state troopers. They have their own academy in Shelton. But the basic training academy, we already cover most of the topics that are named in the law. The gap that we have, again, is in service training for officers who are already in the field. We have officers who received their basic academy training as long as 40 years ago. And although they're required to have 24 hours each year of updated training, there's just a few categories that they're required to cover. So where I see, the thing that excites me the most, two things. Number one, we have a mandate now for specific categories of in-service training, and we have funding, which is huge, because training, many of you, I'm sure, are in professions where you have to maintain your professional credentials. It takes time and resources to do that training. So what we will be looking at, we've gone through our basic academy curriculum, making sure that we're covering those areas of the law that are required. The new area that we're going to be expanding on more than any of the other areas is the requirements for talking about the history of race in policing, alternatives to arrest, the social